friends, while I've always been a huge fan of Smith and Wesson's line of revolvers, I've never been much of a fan of their pocket knives, because while these revolvers were built like a tank, well, their knives, well, every one I looked at always left me feeling a little empty inside. But I recently found out that that wasn't always the case, because back in 1972, Blackie Collins collaborated with Smith and Wesson and designed 7 knives that they offered to the public in 1975. And I have one of them right here, and we're fixing to take a look at it. But first, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it to any of your friends who might like similar knife content. Thank you. Alright, well, first of all, I do not believe this to be a original Smith & Wesson leather sheath. But I do believe that this knife has been in here for a very, very long time. Look at the wear marks inside the flap here, huh? From both sides. Also, the knife has a mark on there from the button right there to the right of my thumb. Check it out. Let me give you a close-up here of it. See it right there? Alright, so this model 6060 or 109W is an 8-inch long knife. It has a full flat ground blade, mirror polished, drop point, and it is gorgeous, I think. It's got a big old sharpening choil on it, and it doesn't have much of a finger choil there, just the bolsters where your finger rests. So it doesn't have any hot spots there. Nice beveled edges to that German nickel silver bolster. And this thing is tight. I mean, there is no wiggle in this thing for being as old as it is. There's your lock back right there. Alright. Now this knife, other than the button wear and a little bit of few scratches here and there, it has survived very well. I mean, it's got some scratches right here on the back on the one-piece stainless steel lock bar there. And it's got some gunk up in the liners. It's a little stiff opening. And that wood, they call that Wesson wood. It is a composite that's made to look like wood. And it's all in pretty good shape other than that one spot that the button wore into it, I will say. Alright, so measuring this thing out, the blade comes in right under 3.5 inches, and we have an overall length of right at 8 inches. It's a very thick, sturdy handle, and it comes in, let's see, I say right at a little over 5/8, or right at 5/8 of an inch wide, and about 7/8 of an inch deep on that handle. And that blade, the belly is almost right at 1 inch. And we have a stock thickness of, it'd be safe to call that 1/8. So, pretty sturdy knife. Let's see what we have on the table here we compare it to. So this is our 6OT. Uncle Henry just did a video on this. I'll put a link at the end. But that old timer comes in a little bit longer. I'd say both in the handle and the blade, probably 3/8 of an inch on both. But that handle's a little thinner. I think the Smith & Wesson feels better in the hand. I like the way that blade angles down, and I like that drop point with that deep belly on it. You know, I got 2 extra large handles, and this knife feels very good in the hand, I will say. Alright, the only other knife I have to compare it to is my Mako Shark by Case, and that is a totally different knife. So let's put that back down. That's not even comparable. Alright, Buck 110 would be comparable, but I never really warmed up to the 110. But I've liked this one so much, I actually have a second one, ordered and on the way. So this might end up being a giveaway knife, and the second knife has the correct pouch. So that'll be pretty cool. But we need to get this knife cleaned up. It needs a little TLC. So the first thing we're going to do is whip out my little polisher and see if we can't clean this knife up a little bit. Alright, so I got this little polish off of Amazon, and one thing you'll see, a little trick I learned, is put these little Ziploc bags over your polishing wheels to keep them clean. Keep the sand and grit off of them. That way you don't introduce new scratches into the next knife. Also keeps you loaded up with some compound there. Alright. Now I do have some white and green compound right here. We'll be using that. And also I have my case paste. We might be using that as well. So let's grab this knife out and get ready to clean this thing up some. Now I'm not going to go through the whole polishing because I don't like to do it in front of the camera, but I will give you a few tips. Wrap the end of the blade with a rag. That way it doesn't cut you if you're going to be working with the blade open. Put a cardboard box behind it so that it doesn't sling stuff all over your wall. Start out on your slow speeds. Alright. Start out with some green compound. Make sure you load it up good, just light pressure. Always super light pressure. Alright, let the wheel do the work. What you don't want to do is force it in. Always work underneath the wheel. Always from on the lower end, that way it doesn't grab the knife and sling it around. And just slightly work it around, keep it moving. And let the wheel do the work. And don't let it grab your fingers. Don't wear jewelry. Put eye protection on. And as you can see how quick it works. Shiny on that side, and that's what it originally looked like. And here's what the knife looks like after about 20 minutes of polishing it. It cleaned up pretty well. Now, it's not 100% perfect. Alright. Got some few little tiny scratches in the blade. It still has that mark from the button, if you can see it there, right there. But I didn't want to sand it. If I wanted to get some wet and dry sandpaper, I could completely got rid of that. And also, it still has a few of these little tiny scratches right here. But you know what? That is kind of the patina of this knife, kind of the history of this knife. So I'm not looking for it to be show perfect. This is going to be a user. So that is good enough for me. So next up, we need to talk about the edge, the most important part of the knife. And if you look at it, it doesn't look like this knife has ever been resharpened. But I tell you what, I put it on a leather strop and I could not bring the edge back. Alright, very thin behind the edge, look at that. But we are going to go ahead and put a proper edge on this knife, and we're going to do so with my Hapstone RS knife sharpener right here. Very happy with this, and I'll be doing a full 1-year review on it. But today we're not going to be using my Vinev diamond stones like I normally use, like you've seen in some of my other videos. Alright, I'm going to set those aside, and I'm going to be breaking out a set of Spyderco, and I have these ceramic stones by Spyderco, and 3 different, I got medium, fine, and ultra fine. And the reason I'm using these is I want to keep that edge looking as factory as possible, and those diamond stones are a little aggressive. Alright, so before we mount the knife in the Hapstone RS, we're going to protect that mirror polish we have on that blade with a piece of, this is just a label, but it'll work just like tape. I just don't have any tape handy right now. So we're going to put that on there to protect the knife from the clamp on the Hapstone. And we are going to go ahead and mount it in here. So the first clamp we want to get up on that flat part of the blade there that doesn't have a bevel, and clamp that in up as tight as we can against the bolster. Then we'll spread these out so we get the most stable platform we can. I'm going to bring this one out to right about here. That gives me some room to work on that tip. And we'll go ahead and take our Allen wrench and clamp those down very tight. Alright, without stripping them out, but we do want them very snug. Next step is to mount us the medium Spyderco ceramic stone on the arm here, and that sits right there with a magnet. And we're going to get our little digital angle finder, and we're going to move that arm aside, put it on the base, zero that out. Alright, and what I'm looking for here is I want to set this at 20 degrees. That's what I'm looking for. So I can reach over here on the hapstone and take this little fine adjustment and move it on up until I get my 20 degrees, and then lock everything nice and tight into place, and I don't have to worry about it. Stick a rag down here because we are going to be using a little bit of my Dawn Power Shot. Alright, right there. That's what I lubricate my stones with. Diamond, ceramic, whatever. I think it's the best thing out there since sliced bread. Alright, smear that around, and we got a nice lubricant, and it also keeps your stone really clean. These ceramics, I might have to go rinse them off, but the diamonds, I'll do a complete session with just that Dawn Power Wash without having to wash them. Now I start out going back and forth, but I'll finish up going in one direction. Now one trick, let me show you. See that little piece of G10? I had to stick it in there because with that full flat ground blade, that blade kept wanting to push back. So I wedged that piece of G10 in there to keep that blade from pushing back. Alright, so now I've worked all my way up to my ultrafine, and I'm going to finish up that blade with my ultrafine ceramic stone by Spyderco. And that is going to give us a near polished edge. This ultrafine is supposed to be something like 6,000 grit. Once again, I'm going to go both directions, but I'm going to finish it off just going in one direction and rotating back and forth each stroke. And as we wrap up sharpening this blade, it'll be time to pull it out of there, unclamp it, make sure we save our little G10 spacer, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. See, that blade kept wanting to push back like that, and what that little G10 spacer does is it keeps it from being able to push back. Alright, so I'm just lucky I had that laying around. It works perfectly. Alright, so let's get this baby out of here, and let's get all that tape and stuff cleaned off the blade. I did accidentally scratch my blade. Got a couple fine scratches in there. We'll try to buff that out, but we might just wait till the next time I get the buffer out to finish that. Alright, so how'd that hapstone and those Spyderco stones do? Well, let's grab us a piece of paper here and let the knife do its own talking. Alright, you ready? Mm-hmm. Pretty nice, huh? That is one good thing about a full flat grind. You can have a 1/8 inch thick spine and still can slice through. Look at that, all the way down almost. But it'll definitely make some confetti. Check this out. Look at that. French fries, anybody? Yep. So now all we got to do is do our part, keep it up on the leather strop, and that knife will stay good to go. Now, one more thing I want to do here before we oil it up is I purchased some Renaissance Micro Crystalline Wax Polish. Now that's something I've never used before, but let's go ahead and get some on a rag here and wipe this blade down. It's supposed to be made in England. Not sure what all's in it. I wouldn't use it around food prep, stuff like that, to figure out what's in it. But you can use my One Angry Kid knife protectant and lubricant because it's all food grade materials. But I just wanted to check out this Renaissance wax. I've heard about it, I've heard some people use it, and I wanted to see how it stacked up against mine. So let's set that aside. I think it needs to dry for a minute, and we can go ahead and try it out on this leather pouch because they say it's supposed to work good on leather too. And I can tell you already, I do like the way it looks on this leather. So yes, it is a good product on that leather. Resists liquid spillage, does not show finger marks. Well, let's get us a rag and wipe that blade down and see if what they say is true. Alright, clean that baby off. Well, yeah, it sure does look good. That does look good. You know, mine, I have to wipe it off a couple times. This actually dries to a polish, and yeah, I'm impressed. I am impressed. Look at that. Did a really nice job on there. This almost left like a little bit of a clear coat. So looks like I am going to have to step up and try to create something similar myself, but I'm going to make it non-toxic. But yeah, Renaissance wax does do a good job. Just not sure if it's non-toxic or not. I don't believe it is. Well, what do you think, people? Do you like that knife? I think it looks pretty good. And I think I'm going to go ahead and lube up that pivot point with my One Angry Kid knife oil and protectant, because it still is a little bit stiff. So I always dribble some in there all along that lock bar, let it soak in, and I like to get this pivot point right here really well. And I work that in. I open and close it probably 20-30 times and work that in really good. I stuck a rag down in there and cleaned out the inside of the knife real good with a brush, and it is nice and free now. Look at that. Super silky smooth. Super silky. Let's see. Yeah, I got it all over on top of that Renaissance wax. Maybe they'll work good together, huh? Alright, put in the comments, do you like the Smith and Wesson 6060? You think it's better than the Buck 110? I like it. Like I said, I got a second one coming, and it actually has the proper Smith and Wesson pouch. I got a really good deal on that second one, so I'll have two. So maybe this one will be a future giveaway knife, huh? What do you think? What kind of contest should we have to give that knife away? Let me know in the comments. Alright, thanks for watching. Be safe out there.